The beat goes on, as Sonny and Cher would say, but not a nice beat. College campuses, particularly Ivy League, but now it's spread to UCLA, USC, you name it, it's all over the place. Violent protesters, likely with ties to terrorism, are invading and infesting a number of college campuses. Administrations, some of them, such as at Columbia, have asked them to leave. Others have had them removed by the police. In addition to people claiming that they're students, it is likely that there are terrorist sympathizers, at least in those crowds, as well as those who have infiltrated, perhaps even run across our southern border. This is a danger, not just for Jewish students, it's a danger for everyone. But at the same time that this is happening, and it's exploding minute by minute, we don't see any federal involvement. We don't see the FBI. We don't see the National Guard. We don't see anything. At the same time, peaceful J6 protesters, thousands of them, have been arrested and hundreds charged, many convicted, for simply peacefully walking into the US Capitol. You see the dichotomy, you see the difference, you see the dual system of justice. The bottom line here is that the federal government and the executive branch is controlled by so-called President Joe Biden. And he does not want to anger anyone that he considers could be a potential voter. And of course, he's lost a lot of support given the war between Israel and Gaza with the Muslim community. Now, good Muslims obviously don't stand for what's going on right now. But Joe Biden does. He has no problem. And in fact, he's threatened Israel. And in fact, he sanctioned Israeli military units for things that occurred even before the Hamas war, just to put on a show. You see how dishonest this individual is? How duplicitous and frankly brain dead, because it's obvious what he's doing. But ask yourself this question. The protesters with regard to the Israel-Hamas war are out in the streets, but no one is in the streets who support the J6 peaceful protesters. If there ever was any justification, and I am against violence of any sort, is that huge, massive demonstrations at a minimum would be relevant with regard to January 6th and what occurred on that day. This was not a subversion of democracy. This was in furtherance of democracy. The American people have a right to protest. They have a right to be in their capital. They have a right to complain that there may have been a fraudulent election. They have a right to complain about the rampant corruption over the last many decades. And frankly, the 2020 election was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was not just about Trump and whether or not Biden was legally elected. It was a culmination of the people seeing that the government lies to them on a minute-by-minute basis, that they can't believe anything that's said, and the fact that the government is unwilling to clean up its own house, that it is corrupt to the core. And I use the term government loosely because this is not a legitimate government. It's why we had a Third Continental Congress, which is continuing to declare independence, to form a new government and not a new nation in the vision and creation of our founding fathers. This is our desire, and this is our need, and this is our creed, is that we must move forward. And I would submit with regard to these violent protesters who are now smashing windows at Columbia and doing other acts of violence and vandalism at various schools, notwithstanding threatening Jewish kids, students with death, or preventing them from going to class, or just screaming out anti-American remarks, death to the great Satan, death to the United States. This obviously has been financed and it's been planned. And as I said before, why isn't it that we don't have the answer, much like we don't have the answer with regard to COVID-19 and what occurred in that communist Chinese lab? Because in fact, we sent the seeds of COVID-19 to that lab. Fauci did, Obama and Biden did with a $2.8 million grant. But I tell you this, in terms of these protesters, the so-called protesters, and they're more than that. They're more than vigilantes. These people are a danger to society. They should be arrested, and those who aren't American citizens deported and sent to Gaza. Let them live with Hamas. They are Hamas. That would be the ultimate punishment. Hamas will know how to deal with them. That's my message for today. Remember, the Father and Son will only help us if we help ourselves. Please go to freedomwatch USA.org. Contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. We are your real Justice Department. The only Justice Department in the government is one that works against the interests of the American people, not on our behalf.